Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for being here today. My name is Rita Wolfson, and this is our monthly free webinar from the Center for Financial Social Work. And our topic today is social workers and money. We need to talk about it. And I've never felt more strongly about anything than the fact that we need to talk about money. And that's what we'll be doing today. So thanks for joining us. And we'll get started by introducing Valerie Arendt, who is the Executive Director of the National Association of Social Workers in North Carolina. She's going to tell you some about her work, and we can all thank her for providing this free CE today. Valerie?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Arendt, and as Rita said, I'm the Executive Director of the North Carolina chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. So first, I'd like to thank Rita, who is a longtime NASW North Carolina member, for her constant support of NASW, and shout out to Rita, who was just named as an NASW Social Work Pioneer, for being the founder and pioneer of financial social work. So thank you, Rita, for your willingness to talk about this important topic, the toll that financial problems are taking on social workers. So looks like we've got close to 500 participants, social workers joining us today, and you don't need me to tell you that social work compensation is an issue. And I'm tired of seeing the memes about social work that say we're not in it for the income, we're in it for the outcome. And honestly, that's completely garbage. I work for an income, you work for an income, we're an educated profession, and many of you are clinically licensed. We're competent and essential to our communities. We have bills to pay, our own families to support, while we are out there supporting others. This saying about outcome versus income is very privileged and assumes that social workers have some other person in their household that can support them when they make less than their worth. The belief that we're not in it for the income minimizes the stress and trauma of not earning enough to cover today's high cost of living, student loan repayment, the expenses of licensing, supervision, and continuing education. Our profession was founded by wealthy white women who didn't need an income because they came from privilege. As Rita will discuss, if from the dawn of the profession, social workers had less of a need to talk about the earning power of caseworkers, wealth creation, or money management, it makes sense that the topic of money remains secondary to the pressing issues of poverty, inequality, and injustice that we still address today. The social work profession is growing, and it is projected to grow in all sectors by 14 to 20% over the next 5 years. I had to respond to an article in our local newspaper today that says there's a shortage of mental health professionals in our area. This article only mentioned psychiatrists and psychologists. And in most areas of the country, there is not a shortage of social workers. Social workers are being shortchanged for their time and talents by insurance companies and corporations, so they leave to go into private practice to only accept private pay. This practice is antithetical to who we are as a profession. We joined the social work profession because of our mission to enhance human well-being and to help meet the basic human needs of all people, with particular attention to the needs and empowerment of people who are vulnerable, oppressed, and living in poverty. We do this by promoting social justice and social change with and on behalf of our clients. But we can't do this if our own basic needs aren't being met, and social workers are living paycheck to paycheck, can we? So people ask, what is NASW doing about social work salary? With the normalization of behavioral health services and the expansion of teletherapy, the need for access to these services has never been greater. When we consider our state's issue with access to behavioral health services, there are a few solutions. For example, we need to raise reimbursement rates for social workers. By not raising Medicaid rates and the current proposal to reduce Medicare reimbursement rates by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services works directly against increasing access to care in the midst of multiple pandemics. Medicare sets industry benchmarks, so reduced reimbursement rates for telehealth and eliminating audio-only services will likely impact other payers. Clinical social workers already are reimbursed at only 75% of the psychologist Medicare rate. despite billing the exact same codes and providing equivalent services, and despite our extensive education and training. The rate has not changed since 1989, when clinical social workers were able to bill Medicare. Please know that NASW has put out several action alerts recently about the reduction of reimbursement by Medicare. Be on the lookout for that. State and federal leaders must come together with behavioral health organizations and providers to create policies and infrastructure for a truly comprehensive and integrated mental health system. This includes adequately reimbursing social workers for their time and talents in our communities. While I don't have the solution on how to finally overcome the salary issues for social workers, be assured that NASW continues to lobby, advocate, and shout out from the rooftops that social workers are essential and actually save organizations money when competent social workers are paid well and are able to help their communities. Good pay and adequate staffing produces results, reduces staff burnout and turnover, and clients succeed in getting their needs met instead of falling back into the system. NASW lobbies in every state and at the national level to increase reimbursement through insurance and state level paid positions. So as we continue to fight at the state and national level to get social workers the salaries they deserve for the education and clinical licensure that you work so hard for, we also need to make sure that we're addressing the financial toll that this is taking on our profession. One of the social work grand challenges is to build financial capability and assets for all. But if we're addressing this issue for our clients, we also need to be addressing this issue for the social work profession. That's why we're here today to start that conversation. And again, thank you so much, Rita, for taking the lead to talk about financial social work. And I'll pass it on over to you. Thank you so much.
Valerie, thank you. We almost don't need my webinar, but since I did spend a lot of time creating it, I'm going to go ahead and share it with everyone. So I want to remind you that we will be handing out one CE for attending this webinar. And you can check the chat box for any messages. These slides aren't shared, but we will have the recording up on the website by tomorrow, I imagine. And if you have questions, please type them in the question box and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. And if you need any technical help, that link should be in the chat box. So we're going to talk about money. And I've been talking about it, as you'll find out, for almost 25 years. And I know that it brings up a wide range of feelings and reactions. So I like to start off by asking everyone to take a deep breath and center yourself and be prepared for talking about financial health and wellness. And I'd like to start with our financial social work affirmation that goes just for today. I will love myself enough to face my fears, practice self-acceptance, and embrace hope. Just for today, I will silence my inner critic, speak my truth, and make peace with myself and with my past. And I will give myself permission to eliminate toxic people, beliefs, and behaviors from my life. And just for today, I will prepare for a better tomorrow by healing my relationship with my money and with myself today. And that captures what financial social work is all about. I hope you'll stay tuned to the very end. We actually have two very special announcements when we finish this training. So let's get started with a poll. How would you describe your client's financial problems, stress, trauma, concerns today? Let me pull up that poll compared to pre-COVID. And I will launch that poll. And it is open. And we will take a look at how we think clients are doing. And we will give people a little more time to vote. And I don't think anyone will be terribly surprised by these results. And I'm going a lot of material to cover, and I really want to have time for Q&A. So I'm going to close the poll and share it with you. No, I don't know why that happened. Okay, close the poll and share the results. So we are looking at, not surprisingly, clients struggling. And that's why I created this presentation. And that's why we're here today, because while a lot of people think things are getting better, they really aren't. Social workers and money, let's talk about it. Okay, there's a physical, emotional, personal, professional, and financial cost to being a social worker. Valerie touched on that, and I doubt that any of you on this training would disagree. This is a universal truth that is not universally acknowledged exactly in the field. Social work is described as assisting, solving, coping, advocating, and addressing mental, behavioral, and emotional health issues, all of which have a financial component personally and professionally. And we will be looking at both sides of that coin as we go through this training. The perception that no one goes into social work to become wealthy has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It minimizes the impact of not earning enough to cover today's high cost of living. Student loan repayments for degrees cost as much as other professions, and the expenses of licensing, supervision, CEUs. While Valerie was speaking, I thought it's going to sound like we worked on this together, but we didn't. We know these are the issues that we face in this field. As social workers, we have a responsibility to prioritize our own financial health and wellness. We just do. Knowing how to manage our own money allows us to maximize our own financial futures, to role model financial confidence and competence for family, friends, colleagues, and clients. And that matters. It makes a difference, because the healthier your personal finances are, the more prepared you are to negotiate on your own behalf, to advocate for your clients, and to practice and inspire authentic financial self-care. These are things we need to do. According to Matt Schwartz, who is working on his doctorate in bringing financial health to evidence-based, he believes that given the importance and impact of finances on clients, agencies, and communities, financial social work should be considered a key component of social work education and a core competency. So while I have numerous goals for our time together today, mostly we will focus heavily on the relationship with money and self, personally and professionally. It is what is so special about financial social work. And I will help you, I hope, to explore how to have and how to give the gift of financial health. So today I'm asking you to consider money from a different perspective. I'm asking you to examine your thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs about money, and again, to rethink your relationship with your money, because that's where financial health and wellness comes from. I'm also asking you to recognize how money affects everyone physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially, because it absolutely does. And finally, I'm asking you to understand that unhealthy relationships, whether with food, substances, other people, or particularly for this afternoon, money, these unhealthy relationships result from an unhealthy relationship with self. And when we approach financial wellness from this perspective, we bring so much to our clients' lives and to our own personal lives. So, how does the financial area of your life compare to other areas of your life, physically, your physical, spiritual, educational, these various components of your life? So, I'm going to open that poll and give you a little time to respond. Okay, over 55% of you have voted. See if we can get some more. And okay, look good. If you want to go ahead and vote, count it down 3, 2, 1, and then I will share it with you. And this poll question comes from the fact that too often we want to minimize the role of money in our lives. We don't have to maximize it, and it isn't about creating great wealth, but it is important to be able to do the work we do without minimizing our value. So thank you for that. And I'm going to hide that and keep going. So it's important to identify where money fits in our lives, because it does fit there for all the reasons Valerie shared with you and all the reasons I'm sharing with you. And it's a part of our lives throughout the aging process. In each piece, we have to consider the role of money, because it costs money to wake up every day. And if someone is older, a woman, uninsured, or a person of color, if someone has a record, an illness or disability, a low credit score, a bankruptcy or a foreclosure, and that list could keep going, that person's life is likely more expensive than other people's lives. So we're going to talk a little bit about financial social work throughout this presentation. And I'm going to begin by sharing a really quick overview of my personal and professional journey to financial social work. It started 24 years ago in 1997 with the word femonomics, a word that I created. And when you create your own word, you get to give it its own definition. And I gave it the definition of the gender of money. And the gender of money is very real. It is part of the feminization, certainly, of poverty, because women are who end up poor in this lifetime. And there are 7 components to the gender of money, most based on the fact that women earn less, live longer, are often charged more. So you can review this recording if you like to see the rest of what's involved with femonomics and the gender of money. In 2020, a number of different things happened that really brought financial social work to the forefront. One was COVID-19, and the other was Black Lives Matter. And it was as if financial social work was discovered. We were averaging thousands of people registering for our monthly free webinars and taking our financial social work certification. We wrote an ebook on coping with the financial realities of COVID-19, and we did a webinar on it. And we have thousands of graduates across the country and around the world, in Iceland, Canada, Japan, China. And it is the behavioral component that brings people to financial social work. So why do social workers need to talk about money? Why? Because money is always the elephant in the room. It's always present. And if we don't talk about money, we aren't providing clients with the most comprehensive care. Why do we need to talk about it? Because there are so few safe places, if any, where we or clients can learn and talk about money without fearing or feeling judged. Why? Because the 12 grand challenges of social work, as Valerie mentioned, and you can see somewhat towards the middle there, build financial capability for all, and that is one of the challenges. But if you look at all of the others, they all have a financial component because it costs money to achieve these goals. Why should we talk about money? Because so many presenting problems have a financial component. They may not come across that way, but there is a financial element to most of them. Why talk about it? Because although no one chooses to have money problems, most people do. And while no one needs to know everything about money, that's definitely the good news. But everyone does need to know certain things about money. We do in our profession, and our clients do also. When we talk about money, think about it. What are we actually talking about? You might come up with a lot of different answers, but we are talking about power because those who have the money have the power. And our work is about empowering clients. That's what we do. And we want to empower them around their financial health. And why talk about money? Because when we talk about money, we are talking about so many different things. If I asked you to write in one or two words that represent what you think about money, how you feel about money, what represents money to you, what money represents in your life, this list could be very, very lengthy. Why talk about money? Because we are agents of change, advocates for marginalized groups. We are committed to social and economic justice, and we are meant to provide clients with a holistic process. So helping clients improve their financial health is an absolute social work imperative. Now, I believed that for a very long time, like about 24 years. Finally, why should we talk about money? Because if we don't, who will? Because we're trained to provide the education, motivation, and support to help people change, which means to help people take control of their money and gain control of their lives. And because we have the skills, experience, and education to help clients change their behavior. Pretty exciting stuff. So why social workers need to talk about money? Well, here's one. We need to stop raising generation after generation of financially illiterate men and women. It's what we've been doing and continue to do. And the way to do that is to prepare children for the real world by teaching them about money. We need to do this because the burden of debt on mental health and physical health is very, very real. The statistics show that people who died by suicide were 8.5 times more likely to have debts. We have so many clients who are unbanked or underbanked. Only 1 in 5 adults has a bank account. Okay, that's wrong. 1 in 5 adults doesn't have a bank account. And that leaves them so vulnerable to exploitation. When we do and see clients using payday loans at 400 or more %, they get locked into that, and it's almost impossible to get out. And we have so many new ways coming at us to spend money we don't have and can't afford. Consumers and companies are buying now and paying later. It is the latest strategy for getting us to spend more. Because if we break up a payment of $100 into 4 payments of $25 each, it just feels like we're spending less. And the problem is that what's good for the economy, which is spending, is never or not usually good for the consumer. 1 in 2 Americans doesn't have 3 months of savings put together, and 1 in 3 think they have too much debt. And debt is on the rise. You can see the red portion is student debt, and it's growing faster than other debts. Mortgages, because of low interest rates, those are certainly on the rise also. A lot of debt. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Let's do this poll. What is the number one reason people file bankruptcy? Let's see what you think. Okay, we will launch that poll. We have some smart people with us today. And there's certainly no shortage of reasons that people build debt and have financial problems. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and share the results with you. And then I'm going to give you the answer. Okay, so the number one reason is medical expenses. That has changed in recent years. There was a time that divorce was the number one reason that people filed bankruptcy. But we have a very different economy. We have a very different world today than only a few years ago. So medical debt is the most common kind of debt in collections and the most common cause of bankruptcy in the US. Wealth equity is intrinsically tied to health equity. This Yahoo Finance article is from July 29th, I think, at $140 billion. Americans' medical debt is nearly twice as bad as it was imagined. And medical debt is a significant social determinant of health. And this research highlights new research on medical debt as a significant social determinant of health, which is something we're all familiar with in this field. Now, these last few slides in this section just kind of look at the various populations, more specifically affected by financial problems. And this economic sentiment nears historic low just came out this week, and I really wanted to share that with you. I hadn't realized the big drop off. So many things are happening right now to affect this economy. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I think this is one of the last polls. Yep. Okay. So, what do you think is the average household credit card debt? Well, most of us are kind of in agreement that it's high. Everybody's joining in here. I'm happy about that. We usually have a guest speaker each month, but a couple of times a year I like to do the webinar, and I was excited to create this one. And I always tell our speakers that we have a great audience that always participates. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. I'll share the results with you, and then I will tell you what the answer is. Okay, so the average household credit card debt, this came out today. I just saw this today, $7,854. So household debt jumps by the most in 14 years to $15 trillion, and that was in the second quarter. And credit card debt is rising again, and bank CEOs are betting on it, and they're most excited about it. So even before the pandemic, 23% of adults and 36% of millennials experienced financial stress at levels qualifying for a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. 25% of Americans experience trauma symptoms from financial stress. So we know that food insecurity is a major problem, and it is ticking up in the past few weeks again. And just this week, more than 7 million out of work people across the US have lost all of their jobless benefits, and another 3 million will lose the $300 weekly boost. So you're right, everybody. This is totally going in the wrong direction. And I just wanted to share how some women are delaying motherhood, maybe because they feel they can't afford it, or they can't afford childcare and housing. Some have student debt. We've talked in previous webinars about how student debt affects so many young people across the lifetime. Here's an NPR program if you want to get closer to your partner, start talking about money. And this says 61% say the pandemic has made financial stability in a partner more important. And finally, the last piece in this is if you're poor in America, debtor's prison is real, because our system does perpetuate a money-based system, which in turn systematically affects minorities and people of color. Sending poor people to prison over their inability to pay fines, court costs, and related expenses. This is happening. It's happening right now. So this kind of brings us to financial social work, what it is, what it does, and why it matters. Financial social work is the intersection of social work, politics, the economy, gender, economic and social justice, and all forms of inequity. That's where you'll find financial social work. It is an interactive, reflective, strengths-based model. It's educational, motivational, and supportive, holistic, multidisciplinary, and healing. It's hopeful, helpful, and works perfectly and beautifully with individuals and with groups. It does focus on relationship with money and self-theory. It is a financial social work core concept. We explore the fundamentals of financial health, the thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, experiences, and values. It is heavily psychosocial, and it addresses financial behavior. It is the thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, experiences, and values that actually drive how we earn, spend, save, share, and borrow. It's a behavioral model. That's why it is embraced around the world, because until and unless behavior changes, nothing changes. So the process is about healing relationship with money, recognizing and taking ownership of your financial health personally and professionally. And it's about healing relationship with self. That's self-discovery, self-care, and self-healing. So we come at it from a very different perspective and approach. We certainly don't start with that B word that nobody likes, for budget, because until you can understand how a budget can help you, what it can do for you, it is not an engaging tool. And we have to engage clients in the process of taking control of their money and gaining control of their lives. So relationship with money and self-theory means that before anyone experiencing financial trauma, stress, and problems can actually be able to cope with the dollars, cents, budgets, math, emergency funds, all of the various actual financial tools or the crises that they find themselves in. They must heal their relationship with their money and with themselves. And that is what sets financial social work apart. It is what makes this model, this process work. So we must factor in financial trauma. There's way more components to it, but trauma, being financially manipulated or controlled by another person, unhealthy and constant concern and worry about money, unanticipated change in financial circumstances, feeling hopeless about your financial future. I know that we talk a great deal about trauma in this field, but this truly is part of clients' lives because money is integrated into every area of their lives. And certainly childhood poverty sends people into a lifetime of financial trauma. We must factor in financial behavioral health. Our May webinar was on financial behavioral health, which I consider to be identifying, addressing, and reducing the problems, stress, anxiety, shame, and other harmful feelings that result when money, physical, mental, and emotional health negatively converge. And this is what financial health, behavioral health looks like. The mental health piece, the emotional health component, the physical health. All of this is affected by our financial circumstances, how we feel about them, what we think about them, how prepared we are to cope and address them. You must factor in financial wellness, the social factors, the financial behaviors, the emotional elements, the economic aspects, the knowledge and experience component, and the psychological issues. They're all involved. So as we wind down with this part, financial health and wellness are essential components of physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. This is universal truth, not universally understood. Crisis intervention as the principal method of helping clients with financial issues perpetuates a belief that financial problems are unavoidable and unpredictable, and some may be, but more are not. Financial health cannot and must not be an afterthought, only available to some and not others. It is, in its own way, a specialized area of study and client service, but we need to provide it to truly do right by our clients, because clients need a safe, non-judgmental space, and engaging, motivational, supportive, and relevant framework to choose to begin the journey to greater financial health. We're going to finish up this segment here with some tips, and none of them has anything to do with budgeting. We want to help clients embrace hope. We want everyone, including you, to forgive yourself for past financial choices, to accept that you deserve better, to recognize that only you can heal you, to address personal financial trauma, to take ownership of your financial future. No one else can do that for you. To set personal and financial boundaries, to develop a personal spending and savings plan, which is what we call that traditional budget word, to give yourself permission to nurture financial health, to know that taking control of your money gives you control of your life, to take financial self-care very, very seriously. And that has nothing to do with spa days or vacations. And to never confuse your self-worth with your net worth. So we've been talking about money. Most people don't, even as we move towards the end of 2021, it still is not something we talk about, but we've been doing it. We started the money conversation today, and I am so excited about that. But that's just the beginning. So many people need a place to talk and learn about money. That's why we had thousands of people register for today's webinar. So learning and talking about money, that's an ongoing process requiring more than one webinar or training, because almost everyone needs someone and somewhere to share the money secrets and questions they've been hiding or avoiding all of their lives. And so here's the real goal and purpose of today's training. We've created a free monthly financial social work virtual discussion group. Money, let's talk about it. Let's have these ongoing conversations. So once a month, we will have a Zoom conversation open to all helping professionals and facilitated by certified financial social workers. Well, we left out the workers there. Our inaugural group is on September 23rd at 2 p.m. and registration is required. So we've given you on these slides a way to register, and Olga has the link in the chat box, I think. So we have a personal, professional, and ethical responsibility to ourselves and to our clients to address the financial component of mental, behavioral, and emotional health issues. It is who we are. And they say that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think it takes a community to really do financial social work right and to benefit us as professionals and to benefit our clients. So we invite you to join our financial social work community and to interact with certified financial social workers, to have the opportunity to talk about money, to improve your own financial health, and to provide more holistic client services. So our very, very last poll, we will launch it and move on to Q&A. So the poll is open, and I'm interested in what you're thinking, and you can choose more than one. And this feedback is very helpful. If I put in, we can only have 5 choices. I have a feeling if I put in the free CE, that would be a very popular one. So we didn't include it, but I know that that's something that we're always all looking for. Okay, 70% of you have voted, so I am going to close this and share it with you, and then I'm going to study it myself to learn from it. Okay, thanks everybody. And so let's go ahead and, well, I almost forgot this special announcement. So this is financial social work, the certification. It is self-study and self-paced. Our students have 6 months to complete it. It includes all the materials plus the final exam. And the online final exam, our students have 2 weeks to complete. And we do have a professional network that meets on Zoom once a month. And we have a Facebook and LinkedIn group that goes along with the certification. And the workbooks are set up so that graduates can use those materials one-on-one with their clients. And to celebrate this really kind of important webinar for all of us here at the Center for Financial Social Work, for the next few days, we are reducing the price of the certification by $200. It's not something that happens very often, so you might want to take advantage of it. The coupon code, when you purchase it, use FSW200. And now You may take your CE from the downloads or the handouts. And Olga, do we have questions for me or for Valerie?
Yes, we have questions, and we have a lot, so I will start. First, Deborah understands that NASW is advocating against for a minimum wage for social workers. Why do you think so? Why do you think this is so? I believe a question to Valerie.
So the question is that NASW is advocating against a minimum wage for social workers. I am not familiar with that advocacy effort, so I can't answer that question.
Okay, got you. Next question. Oh, you want to add something? Sorry. Okay. Why is medical debt an allowable bankruptcy reason, but student loans are not?
We've got quite a group here. That's a really interesting question.
I believe this question to Valerie as well.
You know anything I don't, Valerie?
No, I don't know. Well, I mean, I think in general, medical debt, it is just the way that our insurance systems are working, and because in some states we haven't expanded Medicaid, and because the costs continue to be passed along to those who are receiving those surgeries and whatnot. I think that's why medical debt has increased over the years. If you're looking at other countries in which universal health care is available, the majority of those individuals are medical debt free. So I think the United States has an issue with health insurance issues, with medical debt. So I don't have the magical answer for that, but I think there historically, as Rita talked about, that has increased over the years because of the lack of ability for individuals to have insurance. I think that's a big part of it. And Rita, I don't know if you want to chime in as well.
I just wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that also, in addition to the points you make, medical debt and illness are very often a consequence of life, while I guess that student loans and student debts are a choice that people make. Unfortunately, we do not. I talked about raising generation after generation of financially illiterate young men and women, and they go into school and don't understand the long-term consequences of the debt that they take out, and they live on it instead of applying it to their courses when there's too much, or instead of returning it. Those are very complicated situations. Next, in 2022, we will do a webinar, if not specifically on financial toxicity, which is a reality for people in this country. It comes out of the phrase comes out of the cancer community and refers to the fact that so many people with cancer end up filing bankruptcy, and because they can't afford their medications or their copays, they don't follow through and follow up and don't get better. So these are definite concerns, great questions with no real answer. Sorry. Give me a good one, Olga. Something I can answer.
Okay. Next question. What resources do you recommend sharing with clients to address money management besides?
What resources?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's certainly a lot of information out there. I think what we need to always be concerned about is engaging the client. we don't talk about money. So if a client raises the issue or you raise it with the client, I would certainly suggest not starting with a budget, but looking at the client's thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, experiences with money. I know that a lot of programs, success is measured by the number of seats filled, or they're all about making budgets. But it's really a relationship with our money and with ourselves. If we don't feel good about ourselves, we're not going to be willing to put in the time and the energy and the effort to improve our lives, to want to and believe and find the hope that we need to improve our financial futures.
Okay, thank you. Has the link between employment rights literacy and financial competency has examined in depth? I think question to both, Valerie and Rita.
I'm not understanding the question.
Has the link between employment rights literacy and financial competency has examined in depth?
Have we examined the relationship between employment and financial literacy?
Financial competency and employment rights / literacy.
I'm not sure how to answer that question. Do you get it, Valerie?
No, I think I do, but I don't want to bumble by trying to answer it. And answer it incorrectly. But here's a good question, and I know we've talked about this, Rita. It's been about 30 years since I was in public school. Are public schools speaking to financial education other than accounting, economics, like personal finance? If they do, what level? 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade? I know I didn't know much about any type of finance when I graduated from high school and had to learn really quick right after that. So to your knowledge, Rita, is this something that's being taught in the public education system? It could be taught in North Carolina, but not in Wisconsin. So I don't know if you can address that a little bit.
Well, I know here that Governor Cooper in North Carolina, and they did approve it here. So there is a half year of personal finance here in North Carolina. But if you Google a question about where and what states provide even that half year of personal finance, it's really disappointing, almost depressing, because it is not being taught in the way it should. We have a graduate who wrote her essay on the fact that there's one area of Canada where they actually start teaching students in the lower grades, they integrate money management and tools straight across the curriculum. And that's when you're going to see a change in the literacy, the financial literacy of our adult populations.
Okay, Rita you mentioned that we have to address the emotional aspect of money before budgeting. Can you please say more about that?
Well, budgeting in and of itself has just a really negative connotation. We think of it in this country and culture, we think of it as a negative. It's a punishment. You did something wrong, so now you need to budget. There's nothing engaging about that. And statistics show that anyone that does create a budget, and if you are working on budgets with clients, you do need to make sure that the client is a very big part of that process. But statistics show that people do not stick to budgets. And the reason is they don't understand their value. They don't understand why they need it. So they aren't relating to it. They don't think it's relevant to them. We want to help clients understand why they are where they are. We want to help them identify where they want to be in the future. And then we can develop a strategy together to get them where they want to be. This is a process. This doesn't happen overnight. And certainly many of us, many of you are limited in the amount of time you can spend with clients. But when you're addressing your own financial health and wellness, you do become a better and healthier role model, and you feel more confident and competent, and you know the process, and you are better able to help clients figure out what's in it for me. Everyone wants to know what's in it for me.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Why do you emphasize relationship with money and self so much in financial social work?
Because that's where it all starts. We each have a relationship with money. We aren't likely to wake up every morning and think about our relationship with money, but more than a few people on this training probably wake up and worry about how they're going to pay their bills, their student debt, their credit cards. And that's about our relationship with money. How do we feel about it? What do we think about it? What can we do about it? How can we have better tools to cope with it? It's really at the heart of just about everything we do. And when we don't pay attention to it, it has a negative impact on every area of our lives. And as for self, as social workers, we're very knowledgeable about self esteem, self care, self confidence. We need a more positive sense of self to believe ourselves deserving and worthy of a better financial future. And so it doesn't start with the budget, it starts with self and relationship with self and with our money. I believe in that, and I know that after all these years.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Do we have time for one more question?
Sure.
Can you talk a little more about these discussion groups that you mentioned? A lot of questions about it. People try to register already. I will figure out there is some issues, but we will figure out why. But in general.
Well, I would just love to talk about these groups. It's one of the most exciting things I've ever done. We are going to come together and talk about money. They're going to be facilitated by our graduates, by me and our graduates. And this is the very beginning, and this is what makes it so exciting, because those who come in at the beginning are going to have the opportunity to determine what these will look like. Last year, about a year and a half ago, we started our monthly Zoom meetings for our students and graduates, and they've been so fabulous, and we've learned so much about each other, about the many different ways professionals are working with their clients and bringing this information. Our graduates work with Head Start parents, in domestic violence, in healthcare settings, in universities, in prisons. All of these populations, they need the opportunity to talk about money. They need the tools and the skills. And so I really wanted to bring us together in a way where we can learn what you need and want and share what we know and respond to you. I think it's very exciting, and I hope that I'm sorry to hear that there's a problem with registering. What can we do, Olga, about that? Can we have people put their emails in the chat box or something, or in the somewhere?
I put the link in again to the discussions, and I clicked on each one, and it's a Zoom link, so folks should be able to register. It looks like somebody was having a problem registering for your next webinar. I think that's what was in there, but yeah, they're all there. So the discussions are ready for you to register.
Well, I hope you register, and I look forward to what we can do in learning more and talking more about money. I've always believed, 24 years, I have believed that we are the profession that can help people create greater financial stability and health and wellness. And I hope you'll join me in doing that. Anything else, Olga?
Yes, give me a few seconds. We have another question. I just need some time if you give me, or for example, this one I already asked this one. Sorry.
Well, maybe this is a good place to end. So I can thank everyone for joining us. I hope you took the CE from the handout. And if you have questions or problems registering for the discussion groups, you can always chat me from our website. It's right there when you log into the website. I want to thank Valerie for what a great presentation, Valerie. Thank you so much, and thank you for the CE
Thank you, Rita.
attendees. Thank you. Olga, thank you for all of your help. And we have our next free webinar next month, and those are up on the website. So I hope you'll register and join us. Thanks, everyone, for your time. Stay well. Bye now.